Welcome in, everybody. Fun fact, the original name of Google was Backrub. Now let's start the show.
Turn up your volume. Because you're about to listen to The Sick Podcast. Ray's Rewind with Bushman and Drew.
Jansen. That is into center field. Here comes Kiermaier. Phillips has tied the game. Arose Arena coming around. Throw home. Now he stumbles. But the ball gets away. Tampa Bay wins it. Brett Phillips, game 4 hero.
The sickest Tampa Bay Rays podcast. It's gonna be sick.
Welcome in, everybody, to another episode of the Rays Rewind podcast, courtesy of the Sick Podcast Network. We are the sickest Tampa Bay Rays podcast in all of the land. Welcome in, everybody. I am your host, the great Bushman, and joining alongside me, of course, is my co-host, Drew. Make sure to go to our YouTube page at the Sick Podcast, Rays Rewind. Hit that subscribe and notification bell when new episodes drop each and every week. Drew, I've come to the conclusion that if we just talk about the Rays in a bad way, they'll win because that's all we did for the past couple of weeks, and they strung together 2 series wins this past weekend. And so if we just say they stink and they're not going to do anything, they're going to win.
So when I mean, I don't know if you heard this, but I heard the Rays are playing our podcast in the clubhouse.
Okay.
Well, so it sounds like I'm sure it was just motivation hearing us.
We're gonna prove these guys wrong.
We were gonna, we're at least I was, starting to put the final nail in the coffin, and they said not so fast.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I don't know what to think. I'm so confused, man.
No, I know. I feel the same way. I feel the same way because over the weekend they won, but winning the series against the Twins was huge, and then you pull another series win against the Pirates, which is the Pirates. The Pirates are kind of an average team, but now I'm like, okay, you're not sellers anymore. You're back to being buyers probably at the trade deadline if this keeps up. If the momentum keeps it going, because I wanted to ask you, and I think we talked about this before show. It's like, okay, who are they now? Or is it one of those things where, hey, they've won a bunch of games like they did before, and then they'll crash and burn? It's back to reality after maybe losing a few, and then it's back to normalcy once again, or is this like the Rays team that, hey, maybe we're gonna start to turn a corner, and hey, maybe we're gonna start to play better baseball, and hey, maybe we won't be sellers at the trade deadline, and hey, maybe we'll make a run for the wild card. I mean, I'm confused. I'm so confused. I'm confused. I don't know. I don't know what this.
What should make you feel better is I don't think the Rays know what they're going to do. So
that's good. But you know what?
They don't know what they're going to do. Then
isn't that a good problem to have, though? You don't know what you're going to do.
I guess. I think I'd rather know that I was going to be a buyer
instead of I guess
because then at least you're going to be aggressive. I mean, I still generally believe that this team is more so the non-playoff team, just because they won 2 series, against Minnesota, which they had to win the series against Minnesota, and then they won. I think they said on the broadcast that was the first home series loss for the Pirates in like a month, and then that was.
And you beat Paul Skeens.
Yeah, the game that I guess he had won like 7 of 8 of the games he started, or the team had won the games. I don't know if he's recorded a win in those efforts, but I mean, I was certainly encouraged. I mean, I got excited, like I was excited coming into tonight's game again, and I've kind of been riding this wave of emotion, this roller coaster of, going into the Twins series, I was like, okay, I'm just gonna be positive. I'm gonna say, listen, it's a big series. Let's get excited about the games and hope they can pull out a series win or a sweep. And then was back down again after Monday night's loss, whichever one that was that they lost on the walk-off. And I've just been up and down, which I know is like the opposite of what you're supposed to be with baseball because it's a long season. But right now it just feels like they're just teetering on the edge of being out of the picture and or being really back in. And so it's just kind of with every game and every result, um, it feels like a lot is riding on it, which may or may not be accurate. Like I may be overblowing it, but I just that's how I feel. Like it just really dictates. I mean, had they lost I know we talked about this last time, but like had they gotten swept by the Braves, I would have been like, all right, this is because
Yeah.
they would have been like 7 out or 6 or 7 out. And then, with the Twins, again, even, they could have won the game Monday, the first game. Now, sweep looks a lot better than, 2 out of 3, but I mean, I was telling my wife, I was like, even the games that you think that they're going to cruise to win in Thursday or Wednesdays, I don't remember if it was Wednesday or Thursday, their matinee, their getaway day against the Twins, like they were up what, like 5-4 runs, and it's like, oh, okay,
Yeah, and the Twins came back.
they
Yeah.
could look good, and then they, it's like even the games they win, they find a way to make you feel not great about it. You're like, clearly this team hasn't learned anything, and they're just getting lucky or skating by. So,
Well, I wanted to ask you, I mean, don't you
what's
have some kind of glimmer of optimism in the back of your mind saying, "Hey, maybe we're going in the right direction with 2 series wins back to back." I mean, obviously, look,
Mhm,
winning against the Pirates are they're an okay team. They're not they're not bad. I mean, they're certainly not like one of the great teams in the NL, but they're definitely a team that's been
mhm.
on the rebuild the past couple of years. But the
Well,
Twins have been
you talk
go
about
ahead.
the race kryptonite though, young
Yeah, young teams. Yeah,
young
yeah,
pitching like that. I mean, that
yeah.
I was shocked. Skeens.
I was
I mean,
too. And going into that game, I was going to put some money on Skeens and him, shutting them out and having maybe 10 or 11 Ks. I mean, he came out with 8, but they just shocked me. I was really surprised. Seriously, I'm
mhm.
not gonna lie.
Yeah.
I was like, look, I'm gonna put
Oh
money
yeah.
on this because of the way he's been pitching
I,
against other teams. It's like he's throwing triple digits. His stuff is nasty, and
mhm.
with how the Rays' offense has been so really hit and miss, especially against good pitching, it's kind of like, okay, hey, maybe I should put some money on this. And I'm glad I didn't
Yeah.
because you know
I
they proved me wrong.
what's so funny is when Yandy hit the homer, and I know Josh Lowe had the double right after, but
Yeah.
they like didn't do, it was like the next 3 batters after Josh, I think strikeout, fly out or something like that. And I
Hmm.
was like, all right, well, I'm preparing myself that it's gonna be like 1-0 or 1-1, and the Rays, it's gonna be like the 7th inning, and they're gonna be like,
The
the
usual
Rays
MO.
haven't had a base runner since Josh Lowe's double in the first, and it's gonna, because you get off the thing like, oh man, they're gonna like jump this
Yeah.
guy, and hey, still a young pitcher, like you got some good hitters up there, like maybe he's just gonna have an off night, and then
Hmm.
I was fully prepared. I was like, all right, never mind. It's gonna be like one of those
It's one of
days
those things
where,
where, hey, they'll score in the first couple innings and then it'll be lights out the rest of the way, and then
oh
the
yeah,
pirate the Pirates will
he'll
the Pirates will
settle
take
in.
over. Yeah,
He'll settle in.
The Pirates will take over and they'll win like 5-3 or 5-2 or something like
Yeah,
that.
like
Yeah.
they'll go up 5-1 in the 8th, and then the ninth will scratch across like 2 or 3 to make it like a contest, and then we don't do anything. Yeah, I mean, I do feel better. I mean, the team, what what I was impressed with, I felt like there were a few different times in the last 2 series that, so often the Rays have been the team, they've been down, and then they have an inning or a rally where they tie it, they maybe take the lead, by 1 or whatever, and in that instance, they might leave some runners on. I don't know, could have been more, but they at least tie it, get back in
Mhm.
the game, and then they turn around next half inning and they give the lead right back. And I
Mhm.
thought there was a few times, I think, in the last couple series wins here where they were on the opposite side of that, where they were up, gave back the lead, or gave up the lead or whatever, allowed the team to come back into it, and then they turned around and um, put some runs back up on the board, which I thought was a really cool,
Mhm.
nice thing to see from them for the first time, it feels like, in a long time. Although Chris Davinsky just came in and gave up 2-run homer.
Oh, awesome.
Yeah, he walked a guy and 2-run homer. So I don't know why. I will say, I don't understand why Chris Davinsky is on the team anymore. I don't get it. Like, there's not one guy we can put in there that's better than him. I mean, he's so bad. His ERA is almost 7. I bet actually no. Yeah, it's 6.92.
I think with Davinsky, with him and him still being in the bullpen, I don't know if it's they think they have no other options when they go to somebody, but I'm right there with you, and I think a lot of Rays fans are too. Is just like, why are we still putting in this guy when he's just one of the worst pitchers in the bullpen?
I just don't. He just almost gave up another homer. It went just foul at the very end.
And Drew, this because this goes back into what we've spoken about before in past shows. It's managerial missteps again. Like, why is Cash still going to him when he's so bad? It blows my mind when we have other guys in the bullpen that they could go to. And don't give me this whole like, I don't want to hear from Cash. Oh, well, it was the matchup I liked. There hasn't been a matchup anybody's liked when he's he's on the mound. Why keep going to him?
Has anybody made a meme of Kevin Cash this year with like a snippet of like I guess what comes to mind is like maybe Zach Littell's line against the Braves where he went like 2 innings, gave up 7 runs, and just snip that box score, that pitching line, and then just have a picture of Kevin Cash saying, I thought he threw the ball really well tonight. Because that's what I hear every single night when a pitcher is so bad. It's that, I thought he had great stuff, or I thought he threw the ball well, except he just made that one mistake.
He constantly says that too when a pitcher does bad. Yeah, and he was
throwing not throwing him under the bus. I know he doesn't do that, and I just don't like. I don't understand. Davinsky's shown nothing all season at any point. And I mean, even I think what frustrates me is that me as a fan, right? And I would say I'm a diehard Rays fan, right? I watch every game, even when I'm the most frustrated with the team and feel like they're not going anywhere. I still get excited before game time. I still watch the games. I'm on a podcast about the Rays. I'm a diehard fan, but so I'm not a regular fan, so to speak. But even when I saw before we signed on to do this recording tonight, I saw them warming up Davinsky in the bullpen, and I thought to myself, why? Like, this isn't going to go well. He's shown nothing against any level at any point in a game, right? Whether it's mop up duty against the Pirates or in the Twins series, like he's not shown any ability to be in a big spot, a low leverage spot. He's been terrible all season. And in my mind, I'm like, this is not going to go well. And then he goes out there, like, why are we doing this? And then he goes out there and does exactly what I think is going to happen, which is implode.
I know what meme or GIF we can create for that.
Okay.
There's a line that Luke Skywalker says in The Last Jedi. Are you drinking again this show? Or is that water?
Oh yeah. No, I am. It's rum.
Oh,
it's a Hilton Head rum. Very popular obviously in South Carolina, Hilton Head. And it's toasted coconut, and it is honestly one
neat.
Of the best.
Are you drinking that neat?
I am. It's it's chilled, but yeah, no ice, nothing. I like my liquor. Evan, I want to tell you, it's one of the mainliest things about me. I do drink my liquor neat.
Okay.
Most of the time.
I'll do that. I'll do that with bourbon or whiskey. I'll drink it.
Yeah. Yep. Same. But the rum, it's so good. The taste is so good without anything that I'll just drink it by itself. Anyway.
Yeah. Going back to there's a line from The Last Jedi.
Right.
Luke Skywalker says, "This isn't going the way you think it's going to go."
Yeah.
That should be the caption with Davinsky.
And
this isn't going to go. This is not going to go the way you think, or whatever. But that should be for Davinsky. It's like whenever he comes in, it's like, okay, here we go.
Mm-hmm.
Here we go.
And I mean, I'm looking at the last couple box scores just to kind of get a sense, because I can't remember everybody that pitched, but I know Kevin Kelly. So Kevin Kelly, Adam, and Fairbanks all pitched yesterday, and Clevenger. I believe Clevenger pitched 2 days in a row. Yeah, he pitched 2 days in a row, so he was out today, obviously. But like, no one pitched. Maton and Davinsky and Poche pitched, so he already went to Poche today. And then, I mean, essentially, he has like the whole. So outside of Clevenger, and you're not going to go. I get it. You're not going to go Jason Adam or Fairbanks. So I just, I don't know. I guess Maton is the other option, or you got. I
That
mean, Kevin.
you're just swapping out
I know.
a terrible reliever for another terrible reliever. That's why would you even do that?
We'd be saying the same thing if Maton went out there and blew it. You got Sean Armstrong, who I guess hasn't been. He's been wearing it a little bit lately, but like he's giving you a little bit more historically than Davinsky for sure. Like I just don't understand why we're forcing the issue with Davinsky. I mean he's literally at 33 pitches and he's gotten one out.
And
I mean he's at 33 pitches and he's gotten one out. He's walked two and given up a homer. So like I don't understand why we just keep going back to him. I mean, the Twins. So,
that's a question I wish some of the reporters that that are the beat writers for Tampa media, even the guys on DAE. I mean, we love those guys over there, but I wish they would ask that question, like, why are we still going back to him? Like, why are we still putting him in situations like this where it's usually an implosion, and then now we're behind. And now we have to rely on the offense. We're going into the later innings too, which
I mean the Twins. I feel like are feeling they have the exact same thing going on. It feels like I don't obviously watch Twins baseball regularly, but just in this past series, right? Jay Jackson was a reliever that made a few different appearances for him. I believe, if I recall, he came on after the rain delay on Monday or on Tuesday, excuse me. They had Monday off. So on Tuesday and pitched, let's see. Like like I said, I'm just looking at this. He pitched 2 innings, gave up an earned run, which isn't that's okay. But he did fine, kept him in it. And then what the issue is on the matinee game, he was the guy that gave up the runs late in the game where the Rays were able to take a 4-run lead going into the ninth. He gave up 3 earned runs in an inning. Gave up a couple homers. Well, they literally designated him for assignment minutes after the game. I mean, I remember being on MLB Trade Rumors, and they designated him for assignment right after the game. They were like, "We're done."
Yeah,
and he's a guy. He signed for $1.5 million this year, so it's not like he's some, minimum major league minimum guy that they just got to designate to get him off the roster. I mean, they committed a major league contract, $1.5 million to him, and he's pitching terribly this year. He's got let's see, his ERA is 7.52. He's got a 1.41 whip. Like that's not good. I mean, but they were willing to say like, all right, we're just going to get him out of here because clearly like we're in the playoff race and he's costing us games and not getting it done. And he's only pitched 26 innings this year, 26 and something innings. So like, why can't we do the same with Davinsky? I don't understand it.
I don't understand if it's the lack of depth that I don't understand it either. Like I don't,
but yeah, like who was it? Manny Rodriguez certainly looked capable. Justin Sterner looked fine. Like I would much rather just go ahead and give these guys, heck, bring Erasmo up. I don't even care. Bring Erasmo up. At least Erasmo has shown that he can, and garbage time keep us in games or keep the other team from coming back. Like, I mean, it's so bad. His ERA in the last 7 days is 18 he's pitched 2 innings, given up 4 runs. And that's not even counting today's effort. So like, and I mean, it's just so bad.
You know what also is bad? I just looked this stat up. The pitcher with the best ERA on our rotation is Zach Eflin, and his ERA is 4.20.
Yeah, and Davinsky, Chris Davinsky is not what's wrong with this team. Like taking him off the roster is not going to solve all of our problems. But like, it's just one of those things we can just keep shooting ourselves in the foot. Like we finally get some momentum, and okay, we're 4 games out of a playoff spot. You got a lot of series coming up against some teams that are around you and or in front of you. You got Kansas City on the road coming up. You have I think they have the road trip with Kansas City and Texas. Both teams are in the wild card hunt.
And then we come back against the Yankees at the end of the month, I think.
Yeah, Yankees and Cleveland. Like, you're gonna need to bring it. And like we just keep shooting ourselves in the foot. Like Davinsky's at 43 pitches.
And I bet you nobody's warming up in the pit.
And he's got Kevin's coming out to get him. He's seen enough.
Finally.
Like, runners on first and second, 2 outs, and he's already given up the lead. I mean, he's the reason why the Twins came back in the matinee game. I mean, they were up 4 and he gave up a homer and like 2 hits or something like that, or a walk and a hit. And
there's got to be
the Twins were back in it.
There's got to be a sense of like, hey, we can't release him or DFA him because we got no other options, which I highly doubt there's got to be other options.
That's what I don't get though. Like,
I don't get it either, because if you keep going to a guy like him, and also Matt, I know Mattin's, they're paying so much money and he hasn't panned out either. It's like, just cut weight and just say we're done. We can't see anymore, and maybe promote one of the guys up from Durham. But like, other than that, it's like the same results out of this guy every time you put him in. Why do this?
I get with Maton, they committed so much money to him that they're going to take the stance of, okay, if we're going to get back in this thing or be a playoff team, like he's going to be a part of it. Like they just committed the money to him. Like they're not just going to cut bait on him until they officially say like,
we're done and
we're done. And because they're not going to bring him back at $7.5 million next year, so they're just going to get rid of him.
And to be honest with you, Drew, I think they're just going to ride it out to the end of the season. I don't think they're going to make any move with him. They're not going to release him because it's the money. Because they've committed so much money to him. It's like we release you or DF, we're still eating that money that we're paying you. So we might as well just bite our tongues and just ride the wave with you until the end of the season and let you go.
Yeah,
it's only a 1-year deal, but it's like $6 million for. Like that's $6 million you could have like gotten somebody like gotten a power bat or something like that for cheap.
Yeah. Davinsky signed a $1.1 million contract.
I mean, that's pennies.
Like we just gotta if they don't say he's gone after tonight, then they're not serious about actually fielding the best team they can, because you can't tell me
it's not gonna happen.
There's no way that like they can't feel that some of these guys like Manny Rodriguez, 9 2/3, 2.79. Heck, I don't care if we have 3 lefties in the bullpen. Bring back Tyler Alexander as a bullpen guy. He was better suited for a bullpen role anyway. His numbers are great out of the bullpen. Like, just somebody else can be anybody. I mean, Manny Rodriguez, 9.2 innings, 2.79 ERA.
Like, maybe they're just saving those spots when Boz and Springs come back eventually.
Yeah, I mean, I don't
because instead of like rushing them into the rotation, you could just put them in the bullpen.
Yeah, something like Davinsky's got to go. He's at 26, so I guess he got 1 out, 2 outs tonight.
Should we create a hashtag for that?
Yeah, let's give it. No, let's do a standing O for if the Rays get rid of Davinsky tonight. But he's got 26 2/3 innings. His ERA is 6.75 on the season. Like I'm sorry, like you've proven all that you need to prove in this year. Like he just needs to go. And honestly, it probably would be worse if he hadn't gotten hurt.
Right.
So, anyways, I'm done talking about Chris Davinsky. If the Rays lose today, even if they win if they come back and win the game.
No, I don't think it's going to happen.
If they come back and win the game, it's,
I say if they lose today, I wouldn't say, hey, we're back to normalcy just yet, because I want to see how they do against Seattle with the rest of the series. If they lose the series against Seattle, then I'm like, all right, we're back to normalcy, and then it's back to the way they were.
And now I'm frustrated because now the Mariners too, they got their better pitchers going tomorrow and Wednesday. They got Castillo going tomorrow, which I know he's had a down year, but he's still really good. I'm sure he'll find it tomorrow. Mm-hmm. And then you got George Kirby, like in a 12-10 start. I mean, that just screams 2 hits, 1-0. Like it's just it's so frustrating because like tonight's the game. Like Bradley could have gone a little longer. I wish he would have, but like pitched well. He only gave up the 1 homer. They had opportunities to score. Like it's just a frustrating game for them to drop after everything that's happened, and then setting themselves up for a tough couple games coming up in the next 2 days.
It's the momentum killer.
It's just tough. Do you want to know? Can I tell you somebody that has a lower ERA? Well, Davinsky has the third highest ERA on the team of anybody that's pitched this season. Jacob Lopez and Richard Lovelady, the only two behind him.
Aren't they both hurt though?
Lopez is just down in the minors.
Okay.
He only pitched. They've only pitched 5 1/3 and 7 1/3. But do you want to know fun name who's got a lower ERA? It's not fair because he's only pitched 2 innings, but you know who's got a lower ERA than Chris Davinsky?
Who?
Ben Warfet.
Oh.
4.5, 4.5.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh.
We could honestly at this rate, I mean, we could throw him out there.
I'm okay with doing that.
Yeah, I mean,
anything's better than Davinsky.
He's tracking better than Davinsky right now. So anyways, okay, that's the last I'll hopefully ever have to talk about Chris Davinsky because he'll be off the team after tonight. If it's not the case,
it's not gonna happen.
But to your point earlier about the media, I wish
those hard hitting questions would come about. Maybe they are, and they're not being recorded.
I just want to know the thinking too. Like, I want to know the thinking behind it. Like, what's the thought process of, hey, you have other relievers that are available that are righties. Why are you going to this guy that's, been this year, at least it's been a tough year for him. Like, why are you going to him first? That's what I just want to know. And if he says, well, they like the matchup for this reason and that reason, whatever, like, that's fine. Like, I get it, but
most of the time they've been wrong. They've been wrong about the matchups when they bring him out.
Yeah.
So it hasn't ended well. It has not ended well.
No.
When we get closer and closer to the trade deadline that's coming up, if they're right around this, which I think we're 200, 500 right now, depending on the outcome of this game, do you think they're going to be buyers or sellers?
I think they're going to do the
thread the needle.
Yeah, it's going to be.
They're going to do what they do. Okay.
I think they're going. I think, to be honest, I kind of feel like.
Bless you.
I kind of feel like somebody like Zach Eflin.
He's gone.
I mean, I think the only way that they don't trade off some guys like that, some of these guys we talked about, like a Zach Eflin, not saying they would get rid of all of them, but like one of Eflin, Brandon Lau, maybe Yandy, because teams are going to be calling Yandy. I mean, you talk about trade value. Yeah. If you're talking about getting rid of guys, Yandy's looking really good. He's looking like the old Yandy. You're talking about trade value, and plus that opens up opportunities for other guys. You have guys in the minors that can come up and easily fill, those positions. I think unless the Rays go on a big run where they are in the wild card, like they just go on a big winning streak, or I don't know, they're like the third wild card team by the All-Star break or week after. I think they're going to sell off one of these pieces, at least one of them, regardless of how close they are, because they could bring up, there's a benefit to it, even if they are in the middle of a playoff race.
I will agree with you on one of the guys going, but I don't think it's going to be one of the guys that we think is going to go. Because if they're hovering around this, if they're around 2 games under 500, maybe 3, and they're right there, right kind of in the thick of it in the wild card race, they will make maybe 1 or 2 sell moves, maybe just 1. But I just don't think they're going to make any kind of big movements at the trade deadline. That's going to be like, oh my God. I mean, if they're around 2 games under 500, they're going to have in the back of their mind, hey, we're going to stick with what we got, maybe make 1 move to maybe help out. And then we're going to see what happens the rest of the way. See if we can make a run for this. Cause I don't think they've hit that moment where they're like, hey, we're definitely going to we're waving the white flag like we thought they were a few weeks ago.
Right.
Since they've kind of played a little bit better and they've won a couple series and they're kind of hanging around right now. They're that hang around team that's there every single year. They're the hang around team this year. So I just don't think there's going to be any kind of significant trade. You're going to be fielding calls all day once it gets closer and closer. I just don't think they're going to say, hey, we're totally out of this. It's time for some moves to be made. They might make one, maybe two, but it's not going to be like life changing or game changing. You know what I mean? It's just going to be like, okay, we need to offload maybe one of these guys because of money, and maybe we can get some value out of them. But it's not gonna be like we're selling the farm or anything like that.
Yeah,
I don't think it's gonna happen.
I mean, I tend to believe they're gonna sell at least somebody. I think it also depends on the market. I think if starting pitching's a hot commodity, and you get all these American League teams that are in the hunt for the last two playoff spots, because it's now become the Royals have cooled off so much that now, I mean, you essentially have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 teams within like 5 games of the last two playoff spots. So, assuming that there's a little bit tighter amount in between all those teams come trade deadline, I think starting pitching is going to be really key. I think the Rays would let the market dictate it. I just think that they're going to see it like, all right, so if we get rid of Eflin, who, he's going to make all this money next year, they're probably going to have to cut payroll. Anyway, and we can get this great return for him because teams are being really aggressive on the deadline. And hey, look, we have Jeffrey Springs who's ready to come back, and we have Shane Baz. Like, the drop off, it's not significant enough that the team's chances this year, they could still say, yeah, we still were going for it because we got this trade deadline acquisition and Shane Baz, or the classic like the guy coming back from injury. It's just like a trade acquisition. Like, they could still say we're still going for it because we're bringing back this guy that some would probably say is even better, and we're getting return for a guy that we're getting future value in whatever they get back for a guy like Eflin or
because I asked myself this question: is if you trade away Eflin, who's going to replace him? Like, who goes into that slot? You don't really have anybody to replace him with. You know what I mean? Unless they get something back where there's an MLB ready pitcher that could slide in there, but Eflin's value isn't there to where you could flip him and get guys that are ready to go. They're not prospects or anything like that. So if you trade Eflin, and if they are like, okay, we're hovering around 500, we're still kind of in the mix. If we let Eflin go, who's going to slot into that number one spot? You know what I mean? So it's like, to me, it wouldn't be a great move for them to do that if they're still in the hunt. To me, if there was a pitcher to get rid of, it would be Savali, but his value is just so low. You're selling low on him right now.
I was gonna say, so okay, if you're the GM, if you're Eric Nean, so if it's you making the call, so because we're trying to think about what the Rays will do, like trying to predict what they're gonna do, but like if it's you, what are you doing?
I'm fielding as many calls as I can, and then I think the trade that I'm going to probably pull the trigger on is one of the position players that we have ready to pull one of the guys that we can maybe say, okay, we're going to trade him. Like, if it was me, I would say pull a trigger on a Brandon Lau trade.
Yeah. Okay.
Because of his value right now, and then you can, and when Junior is back, you could say, okay, we're ready to bring up Caminero now, and then we can see what he does. Because I think pitching is so valuable to them. They're not going to say Eflin, well, we're trading Eflin for this. We're not doing that. I don't see them doing that. They're going to ride him out until his contract is up, and then he's gone. They're not going to trade him. He's not a Tyler Glass now. You know what I mean?
That's why I think that they would. So just because I wanted to tell you what I would do.
Please do.
Yeah.
Eric Neander, you're on the clock.
Yeah, thank you.
Your fielding calls.
So I'm looking, if I'm the Rays, obviously you're taking calls for the duration of the month and into the All-Star break or whatever. And then of course, the caveat, if somebody just comes and says, hey, we really want this person on your team, and just gives you a great offer early, you're like, okay, that's that aside. Say that doesn't happen. I'm fielding calls for the next month. When is the deadline?
Deadline is August 1st.
Is it August 1st? Okay.
August 1st.
I wasn't sure. Okay. Oh, July 30th, actually.
It's July 30th? Okay, so we have almost a month.
6 p.m. Eastern. Right. So for the next month, less than a month, slightly less than a month, I'm fielding calls. I'm moving Zach Eflin now.
Okay.
I'm moving Zach Eflin this trade deadline season. and I'm moving Brandon Lau because
So
Brandon
both.
Lau's regardless of what the team's doing.
Now, question: are you doing that as a package deal, or are you going to be dealing them
I
off
mean,
to
I guess it
separate
would
teams?
just depend. I guess it would depend, but I've seen enough out of Richie Palat, and I realize Richie doesn't have the power Brandon Lau does, but
Mm,
given the contract commitments of Brandon Lau and the fact that you're not, 99% not bringing him back at what is it, 13 million next year or whatever it is,
yep.
the club option. I'm saying, okay, I'm going to see what I can get for Brandon Lau because teams are going to need left-handed power at the deadline, and same with Eflin. To your point, I think that his value is not going to be higher in the offseason because if you look at his salary is going up to 18 million.
Mm-hmm.
That's guaranteed. It's not like an option or anything. So the team is likely not going to actually go through with paying him 18 million. Like if they're going to not go through with paying Tyler Glass now 25 million,
Yeah, they're not going to
when
pay him
they're not going to pay Zach Eflin 18 million.
right.
So his value in the offseason, I don't think would be nearly as high as it would be in the middle of trade deadline season where you have a bunch of teams needing pitching. And a guy like Eflin, he's not spectacular, but man, he's such a great guy to have as I think,
He's the
like the
elder
third.
statesman in the rotation. He's that.
Yeah.
But he's
But by default, like it's not because
default.
he's
He's the
earned
number
it.
one. Default. He's the number one.
I
You
mean,
know what I
he
mean?
wouldn't be if there were all these injuries, right?
Right.
He would still be the fourth guy if Rasmussen,
And
Springs, and
Springs.
McClanahan were around, right? They
Yeah.
weren't all hurt. So I think he's a great, but because he's that number one guy, obviously there's a lot of pressure on him. We put that on him because he's our, quote unquote ace. I just think he would be such an attractive, hey, I'm a playoff berth, playoff contending team that needs more pitching depth. Like I need a guy slotting in on my third rotation spot. Like he doesn't walk guys, he's just so controlled. And I think the floor on a guy like that is so much higher.
Okay. See,
So
to me, if you're trading away him though, and you're just getting back prospects, that to me is saying, okay, they're kind of waving the white flag here when you're giving up
yeah.
pitching. You
Now,
know what I
but
mean?
see, my rationale would be that I can bring Springs up and I can bring Shane Boz up because I need those
Yeah,
guys.
but are they going to be ready though? That's the thing, though. Are they going to
Well,
be
I
ready?
mean, Springs is supposedly going to be ready by the All-Star break. So if all this is taking place All-Star break time, post All-Star break, you would assume he's ready to go.
Mm-hmm.
Shane Boz, you can bring up whenever. I think he's looked a lot better, over the last few starts in Durham. Like, so these are guys you're going to rely on, in the next year, couple, especially with Shane Boz, next couple of years. Excuse me. So in my mind, I think the highest return I'm going to get for Eflin is trading him this summer. And now I don't know what that looks like. I don't know what that looks like if that's lower level prospects or ideally it's maybe a catcher. I would love to see them get a
I do too.
level MLB ready or near MLB ready catcher from a team. Like in my mind, that's something that they can pull off. And whether that means they trade Eflin and like a Randy Arozarena.
See, I would love that for it to happen, but like you see, most teams they covet catchers like it's no tomorrow.
I know.
Like catchers, having a good catcher is such a viable commodity in the league. It's like you'd have to give them something spectacular to pry a top grade catching prospect or an MLB ready like catching player already. That's something that they would have to throw like almost at the kitchen sink to have some guy that's ready to go.
So, yeah, I mean, if they can get, even if it's like a double A guy or I don't know, but like,
no, I want a catcher now. We need a catcher now.
I know, but Eflin, I think you trade now. Brandon Lau, I just think you trade now because you're going to get rid of him in the offseason. You see what you can get for him. I think guys like Palacios have shown that they deserve more playing time. I think Palacios is a guy that's going to be a part of the team over the next handful of years. And he's a great guy to have around. I think energy wise, clubhouse wise, he seems like he's just such a great fit, and he's embraced being here. So I'm partial to that, because it would be you'd be doing a disservice to the team too if you're not creating enough space to have guys like Curtis Mead, Aranda, and Caminero. Like you need to get these guys at bats. Like Caminero needs to be up in the team. Like he can't. There's no reason for him to be in the AAA all season. Like he's got to be up here at some point.
When's he coming back?
Supposed to be in July, like early to mid July. So I think you get rid of Randy, get rid of Eflin. I think the other thing is you're taking calls on guys like Yandy and Randy. And I'm not saying you have to move them. I think of the I mentioned Eflin and Lau. I think Randy I would put closest to that group as well. Even though that would make me very sad. I just think that based on what I'm hearing, I'm not an insider, but what I'm reading, from guys like Jeff Passan and others, like, Randy apparently across the league is still being viewed as somebody that, changes scenery guy. Obviously he's great at the fans, high energy. Like he would create headlines and he's the guy that other teams would be like, he's going to give us a huge spark, like a huge lift. Like that would be a big energy boost. So I think the Rays can get some value for him, and he's obviously looked a lot better recently. His average is almost a 200 now. So I would probably put him in the same group, like, because in my mind, you have guys, I realize they're not going to be as good, like Johnny DeLuca or some of these other guys in the minors are going to be as good as Randy. I know Randy struggled, but like, you're not going to expect the same production, but you're still going to get enough production out of those replacement guys that I think you could still say, all right, we're still good enough to be in this race at this point, but we're still getting good value for us next year or beyond when we really think we're going to be back in contention with our pitching and with some of the other guys we have coming up. So Yandy, I think you take calls. I don't know his contract offhand, but I think he's Yandy, so important at the top of the lineup that, like, if you want to contend next year, I don't think getting rid of him is going to, like, that's going to hurt you next year.
I think out of all the guys, and I'll backtrack some of the things I've said in the past couple weeks about who's going to be gone. I think he would be the guy that's not going to go anywhere.
Yeah.
I
don't think he would.
Unless the offer is so an offer you can't refuse, maybe do it. But with him, I think with his presence in the clubhouse and the way he is, I don't think he's going anywhere. I think he's going to stay.
And you got to get rid of Rosario.
Yeah.
I think. Rosario is just taking up a spot for one of the minors. Like, Rosario needs to go regardless.
Which you could get good value out of him, though.
Yeah, you get something. For what you committed to him, like, absolutely.
Get a reliever out of him.
Rosario needs to go. I think Rosario, Eflin, and Lau are my three guys that you say, those guys, I think I would be saying I'm going to trade them and get the most I can for them right now, because that opens up spots for other guys that I want to get up here. And then anyone else, you can make the case on a number of guys. I think it all just comes down to what you're being offered. I think you could even throw Paredes into that conversation of, like, hey, if a team comes at me with,
his value out of everybody, I think out of everybody, his value is the biggest.
He's got
the most value right now,
and I'm still not sold on him long term. I realize that's probably not popular at this point. He's looked good at times this year, and he's been our most consistent hitter. I get it, but like him being our most consistent hitter and our most productive hitter is like the 7th best hitter on the Orioles right now. Like, he's like got the same production as Jordan Westberg or something. Right. So I get that he's been our most consistent hitter, and thank goodness he has been, because the offense has been terrible, but like, he's the best player on a terrible offense. So I don't think that he's necessarily a guy that we have to commit to long term. I would much rather commit to a guy like Josh Lowe.
I was just about to say that. I'd rather get a contract with him, which is probably going to come pretty soon. He's
hopefully.
So, all right, everybody, we want to hear your thoughts and comments in this episode about who's going to go at the trade deadline or who's going to stay. So for myself and Drew, we'll see you guys on the next episode of the Rays Rewind podcast, the sickest Tampa Bay Rays podcast on the Sick Media Network. We'll see you guys later. Peace.
And that's a wrap. Hope you don't miss us too much until next time. Follow the Sick Podcast Rays Rewind with Bushman and Drew on YouTube, Google Play, and Apple Podcasts.